everybody, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1786B, and today's date is February 7th, 2019, and the title of the episode is, It's Time Senate Was Everything, Investigations Begin. Now, before we get started, I want to talk about all the threats that we are seeing today in America, especially with the new caravan amassing in Central America, headed up to the border. Remember, your safety is the number one concern. One of the best things you can invest in for your home protection is a Patriot Flashlight Kit. The Patriot Flashlight Kit contains one of the most reliable, durable, and brightest flashlights available on the market. It's called the Night Protector. Now, the Night Protector lights up the darkest of nights with its powerful 1200 lumens that can be seen miles away. It has 5 brightness modes, include very, very soft and very, very blinding light. It's waterproof, so you don't worry about leaving it out in the rain. Say goodbye to all those batteries. This has a rechargeable lithium battery that comes with it. The Night Protector is made of durable aircraft-grade aluminum alloy. It comes with a protective case. It even has a belt holster, a wrist lanyard, all while remaining lightweight and durable. Users have reported this flashlight to be the most durable flashlight on the planet. Users have reported this flashlight to be the most durable flashlight on the planet. I wouldn't go anywhere without it. It's lightweight but very durable, compact but great handling for all emergencies. To get the Night Protector, go to patriotkit.com. Use code X20 and get 20% off the Night Protector. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, they are panicking like no tomorrow. They really have nothing on Trump. And we see Adam Schiff. We see the different investigative committees within the House. They are pushing as hard as they possibly can. But something very interesting happened today. And remember, Q has been telling us that the Senate meant everything. The Senate was the key. It was the target. We know the Senate was set up as a firewall. And we also know that the Senate was taking over many of the investigations. And the Senate would lead the hunt with new investigations. And we're starting to see this already. It looks like it's time. It looks like it is beginning. And everything that was set up in the past, where all these individuals were arrested for lying that had to do with Trump, where Mueller went ahead and arrested Roger Stone, George Papadopoulos, Michael Flynn. Remember Michael Flynn? He didn't even want to change his plea. Yes, I lied. There was a reason for all of this. And we're going to be talking about that in just a minute. But first, coming out of the Gateway Pundit, it looks like the DNC server, as we know, was not hacked by Russia in 2016, and there is now more proof that it was an inside job, and the deep state, they knew all about it. Of course they did. Now, in 2016, numerous private emails from the Democratic Party were released to the public by WikiLeaks. The emails unveiled activities of wrongdoing by the Democrat and the Hillary camp, and so the mainstream media mostly ignored them. Soon after, the Democrats claimed that they were hacked by Russians. New evidence shows that these emails most likely were never hacked at all, let alone by Russians. In their recent book suggesting that Russians are to blame for Hillary's 2016 election loss, far-left writers Michael Isikoff and David Korn, 2 individuals involved in promoting and releasing the fake Trump-Russia dossier, attempted to tie the release of DNC emails to Russia. In their book, Russian Roulette, Isikoff and Korn share the following about the firm CrowdStrike the Democrats used to look into their data breach. This is from page 74. One of the CrowdStrike's first moves was to advise the DNC officials to do nothing. Don't shut down the system. Don't stop using it. The reason? Any dramatic action or change in routine could alert the hackers they had been spotted, and then the intruders might take steps to make it impossible to ferret them out of the system. But this is nonsense on many counts. If the intruders could have made it impossible to ferret them out of the system, this is the first thing they would have done. Not even CrowdStrike would have given the DNC the advice to do nothing. The DNC and CrowdStrike coordinated and provided the false account in order to explain why the DNC did nothing when it discovered the breach. CrowdStrike and the lawyers warned the small circle of DNC officials in the know to keep their mouths shut, and this meant not telling anyone in the Clinton campaign. Instead of installing additional controls to prevent hacking, adding additional malware protection or other related preventative action, the DNC decided to keep everything secret and the same. This makes no sense whatsoever. The DNC was never hacked by Russia. This was a lie developed by someone of the likes of Hillary's creepy campaign manager, John Podesta. If they were hacked, they would have implemented aggressive controls to prevent future hacks. They wouldn't have called a team meeting and asked the entire team to provide their laptops. Now, why did they want them to provide their laptops? Because they were looking into who actually took the information. They were trying to figure out who it was. So the DNC never let anyone but CrowdStrike look at the server. The FBI hasn't even reviewed their server, but the entire fairy tale led to the Mueller witch hunt, and it's all a lie. And many believe, which I do believe, that the insider who released the emails was Seth Rich. And you can see that they're still trying to figure out a way to explain why they did all the things that they have done. But it's all coming to an end. They're panicking. This is why you see all this information coming out there. Adam Schiff, who's the House Intel chairman, announced a sweeping investigation into Trump's finances and Russia. Well, isn't that what Mueller's for? That's right. Mueller found nothing, and Q told us they were going to move all the investigations from Mueller to the House to keep the insurance policy. Now, this is very interesting timing on Schiff's part. He decided to announce his massive investigation into Trump's finances the morning after the president's wildly successful State of the Union address. He said in a statement, "Consistent with its jurisdiction, investigative responsibilities, and building on substantial work undertaken during the last Congress, the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence will conduct a rigorous investigation into efforts by Russia and other foreign entities to influence the U.S. political process during and since the 2016 U.S. election. In addition, the committee will investigate the counterintelligence threat arising from any links or coordination between the U.S. persons and the Russian government and or other foreign entities, including any financial or other leverage such foreign actors may possess." Schiff also announced Wednesday that the House Intel Committee voted to release all witness transcripts from its Russia investigation to the Department of Justice and Robert Mueller. Now, this is kind of odd because if you remember back in September 2018, those transcripts, they were already released by Devin Nunes. They were given to the intelligence community, the Department of Justice, FBI, and also to Robert Mueller. So he's making a big deal out of nothing. I guess it looks good in the fake mainstream media press, and people look at this and say, oh my God, he's going to release everything. It was already done. He's grandstanding. He has nothing. So here's what appears to be going on. Matt Whitaker is scheduled to testify before the House Judiciary Committee on Friday, and William Barr's confirmation vote from the Senate Judiciary is on hold. All of this stuff is connected. Mueller is a player in all of this because he too has material deep state risk. Remember, he's fighting for his life here. Speaker Pelosi, Schiff, Elijah Cummings, Jerry Nadler are working with Robert Mueller and Rosenstein, and they're working on a very strict timeline here. Pelosi, Schumer, and the Democrats do not want William Barr to be able to write a summary, a public statement based on the report delivered to him by Robert Mueller. Instead, they want the report themselves. This way, they can produce it and write the summary and put it out to the mainstream media. Why do they want to do this? They want to shape the narrative. So this is what they're trying to do right now, but I don't think it's going to work. Mueller, as we know, might be a gray hat. And we know that he's fighting to save himself because he was involved in the uranium one. Now he's involved with the FISA courts with all the warrants because he was brought in back 2002 moving forward. He also has to do with something with 9/11. So he's trying to save himself right now. Trump actually tweeted out the following. So now Congressman Adam Schiff announces, after having found zero Russian collusion, that he's going to be looking at every aspect of my life, both financial and personal, even though there is no reason to be doing so. Never happened before. Unlimited presidential harassment. The Dems and their committees are going nuts. The Republicans never did this to President Obama. There would be no time left to run government. I hear other committee heads will do the same thing, even stealing people who work at White House. A continuation of a witch hunt. Now, Acting Attorney General Whitaker, he is pushing back against the Dems, says he won't testify unless the Dems withdraw a subpoena threat. So, in a 23-13 vote along party lines, the Democratic-led House Judiciary panel authorized Congressman Nadler to subpoena Acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker if he does not answer certain questions. Whitaker pushed back against the Dems in a statement calling their threat to subpoena him an attempt to create a public spectacle. Adding political theater is not the purpose of an oversight hearing, and I will not allow that to be the case. So, we can see that he is pushing back, and he's saying this should not happen this way. So, Assistant Attorney General Stephen Boyd backed up Whitaker in a separate letter demanding written assurance by a 6 p.m. deadline the Judiciary Committee would not issue a subpoena. Now, Matthew Whitaker, he volunteered to appear before the committee to testify. But the Dems, they're threatening them, and they're trying to push something very interesting, and this is coming from Boyd in his letter. He's saying that they are trying to refocus the hearing on Trump's confidential communications with the acting attorney general, which raises confidentiality interests that are vital to a president's ability to discharge the responsibilities of his office. Boyd continued, absent such an assurance, Acting AG Whitaker will simply not show up for Friday morning's hearing. The preemptive move to authorize a subpoena shows just how aggressive the Dems are pushing Trump officials. It should be used as a last resort to compel testimony. And why are they doing all of this? Because they are desperate. Remember, they don't have their leaks anymore. They don't have the information filtering into them. They don't know what's going on, and they're desperate. Why would they be desperate? Because Trump, the Patriots, they have everything. Now remember everything that has been happening in the past here, where Mueller was out there and Mueller was arresting Trump associates and some that he hasn't seen in a very long time. Most of the arrests had to do with lying. Now, I do believe, and I said it back then, I do believe that this was done on purpose because they're going to use this against them. And it looks like this is about to happen. Rand Paul right now calls for Senate hearings on FBI methods and selective prosecution of Trump officials. So, Rand Paul is out there saying we need to have investigations and hearings. He said the following, he tweeted this out. Justice is supposed to be blind. Why is it that an admitted liar like James Clapper perjured himself to Congress and got off scot-free? But if you're somehow associated with @real Donald Trump, then they will pursue you relentlessly. This shouldn't be a one-way street. Senator Paul added that the Senate should investigate FBI methods and it is time for hearings. They are going to use everything that they were using against Trump. It's all going to come back around to bite them. The other thing that's very interesting is that Q has always been telling us that the Senate was the target. The Senate meant everything. The Senate was the key. First, it was a firewall, but we knew that all the investigations were going to move to the Senate from the House. And new investigations and hearings were going to come out of the Senate. And this was being done on purpose. This was part of the strategy. Think about this now. Jeffrey Epstein, Epstein Island, Lolita Express. Remember, he's the disgraced New York financier who served 13 months in prison for soliciting an underage girl for prostitution. Now, right now, the Senate is opening up this case once again. The Department of Justice has reportedly opened an investigation into the conduct of the Department of Justice attorneys in this case and whether they committed professional misconduct in their work relationship with Epstein's attorneys. The probe was open in response to a request launched by Senator Ben Sasse, a Nebraska Republican and member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, who raised questions about the case after reading the Herald story, the Miami Herald story, about how Acosta and other Department of Justice attorneys worked with defense attorneys to cut a lenient plea deal for Epstein back in 2008. And what's come out of all of this is that within the FBI documents, it shows that Jeffrey Epstein had a professional relationship with FBI Director Mueller. So when you look at the documents, and of course they're very, very redacted, it looks like Epstein clearly cut a deal with Mueller's FBI to avoid prosecution. But again, it's heavily redacted, very hard to make heads or tails, but you can see something is going on here, and the Senate, well, they're opening it up again to probe into what happened. Remember, the Senate was the key. The Senate meant everything, returning the power to the people. Now, out in Venezuela, we can see there's a lot going on, and I do believe there's two operations happening in Venezuela. One, you have the neocons on one side, and this includes the mainstream media and many others. And then on the other side, you have the patriots. Now remember, Trump uses certain people for certain tasks. He's using Bolton right now. I even believe he's using Pompeo. He's using these individuals to get to the end goal. And that is to get the deep state out of all these countries, to stop all these endless wars, and to reset everything. I believe that's his main goal here. Now, you might see a lot of other things happen, just like we saw with North Korea, just like we saw him push a button and fire missiles. He didn't actually push the button, but fire missiles into Syria. Just because you're seeing it, it doesn't mean that this is what's happening. All they're showing you is what the mainstream media, what the deep state, what they want to show you. They're not showing you what happens in the background. Now let's look at Juan Guaido. He was educated in George Washington University in D.C. Now, Guaido was virtually unknown in Venezuela before being thrust onto the world stage in a rapidly unfolding series of events. Now, in a poll conducted a little more than a week before Guaido appointed himself president of the country, 81% of Venezuelans had never heard of this individual. Now, U.S. Vice President Pence phoned Guaido on the evening of January 22nd and presumably asked him how'd he like to be made president of Venezuela. The next day, Guaido announced that he considered himself president of Venezuela, followed within minutes of Trump confirming the self-appointment. A few weeks before, January 5th, Guaido had been installed as president of Venezuela's National Assembly. Now, he was elected to the assembly from a coastal district with 26% of the vote. It was his party's turn for the presidency of the body, and he was handpicked for the position. Guaido, even within his own party, was not in the top leadership. Although Trump came out and said, "We recognize Guaido," Guaido's Popular Will Party is not representative of the Venezuelan opposition. And these individuals within this party, they hate each other and they hate Maduro. Now, what's very interesting is that Guaido and the entire party, this does not reflect the democratic consensus in Venezuela, where polls consistently show supermajorities oppose outside intervention. Popular opinion in Venezuela supports negotiations between the government and the opposition are proposed by Mexico, Uruguay, and the Vatican. Maduro administration has embraced the negotiations as a peaceful solution to the crisis facing Venezuela. So what we're seeing here is that this was a complete setup, and I believe this was done on purpose by Trump to first flush out all the neocons, flush out and expose their true identity, their true agenda. He did this in Syria, he did this in North Korea, he's doing it now. Now, what's very interesting is they keep mentioning Article 233, and we mentioned this before. This is Article 233 of the Venezuelan Constitution, which gives the National Assembly the power to declare a national president's abandonment of the office, in which case the president of the National Assembly can serve as an interim national president until the presidential elections are held. So the inconvenient truth is that Maduro has shown no inclination to abandon his post, and the Constitution says no such thing. In fact, the grounds for replacing a president are very clearly laid out in the first paragraph of Article 233 of the Venezuelan Constitution and do not include fraudulent or illegitimate election, which is what the cabal has been claiming. Now, yes, the deep state has been claiming for a very long time that Maduro's election, well, this was illegitimate. It was fraudulent. But remember, their election system, you have to take a fingerprint. They were using the case that they were stuffing the ballot boxes. And we can see right now, I do believe that Trump is actually pushing this and giving the neocons, giving what all these individuals want. Just like he did in Syria. He wanted Trump to fire missiles. He fired missiles. They wanted Trump to invade North Korea. Well, the generals started making up plans to invade North Korea. It flushed out those people who are part of the deep state. So we can see that something else is going on. Now, what's very interesting is that Marco Rubio, Pompeo, they're putting out these photographs that Maduro is blocking humanitarian aid. Now, we already know that the neocons, they were trying to smuggle weapons into Venezuela. And you know why they're doing this? Because they want an armed conflict there. They want something to happen. They're trying to push an event. So the U.S., or I should say the deep state, is using the pretext of delivering humanitarian aid from Colombia to Venezuela to undermine the government and to establish a supply line for further operations. Is another attempt to pull the military onto the coup plotters' side. Now, Secretary Pompeo tweeted out the following: the Venezuelan people desperately need humanitarian aid. The U.S. and other countries are trying to help. Put #Venezuela's military under Maduro's orders is blocking aid with trucks and shipping tankers. The Maduro regime must let the aid reach the starving people. Now, so far, the Venezuelan military has shown no sign of interest to change its loyalty. Now, the reason why this was blocked, it was not to keep food and medicines from the people. They were blocking it because they knew it wasn't just food and medicine. They knew it was gun running. They knew what they were trying to do here. This is how they did it in Ukraine. This is how they did it in Syria. This is how they did it in Syria. This is how they did it in all these different places when they had regime change. Now, the question is, why is Trump letting this all happen? Why is he pushing this? I do believe they intercepted some chatter or some type of communication where they were going to either push something in Venezuela, they were going to try to have the coup on their own without Trump, and I think Trump intervened and decided, you know what, let's do it this way. This way, there's no armed conflict, because Trump is a negotiator. He's not there to have war. He's not there to push war. He's there to negotiate. And I firmly do believe, just like Q has been telling us, the people have the power. The people in this country have the power. The people in this country have the power. The people in Syria had the power. They elected Assad each and every time. The people, if they truly, truly want Maduro out, the people will decide. Not by the U.S. coming in, using weapons, and creating a false flag event to have complete and utter mayhem in Venezuela, because this is just going to hurt the people, and it might even split Venezuela just like it did Ukraine. So I do believe that he is using this strategy with the help of the military to calm the situation down, expose certain individuals, and let the people talk it out. Now, what's very interesting, I'm waiting to see if Maduro actually folds and gives a call to Trump. Remember, with Iran, Trump was always waiting for a call from the Iranian leader. It didn't happen. He's still waiting. Venezuela, I believe if Maduro gives him a call, just like Kim Jong-un reached out to Trump. Now, Trump might even say, listen, I'm willing to speak to Maduro. He is going to take the call. Maybe not right off the bat, but he will eventually take the call to negotiate, because he knows what's inside of Venezuela. He knows the deep state is lurking. And you can see this most likely is the same plan he's used in all the other countries. Now, what's very interesting is that Running the Race tweeted out the following, and it's a picture of RBG wearing a black glove. And during the State of the Union, Melania Trump, she had one black glove on her hand. The other hand did not have a black glove. Now, was this a message where she was pointing us to RBG? Might have been. We've seen a lot of different clues coming out of the State of the Union, and this might have been a message to let us know that something is about to happen. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.